what comes next for the Toronto Raptors. Hey guys, Manuel here, and before I jump into this video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special, and that is the Help a Brother Out, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like underneath this video. I'm not one for long intro, so let's jump back into the story. The Toronto Raptors were bounced out of the playoffs by the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday night, and it became very clear that the Toronto Raptors aren't the team that we all thought they were, because they played terribly against the Bulls and blew a 19-point lead. And to add insult to injury, this was in front of their home crowd at home. Now, I'm a Toronto Raptors fan myself, so it was very heartbreaking to see how the Toronto Raptors crumbled in the fourth quarter. Toronto Raptors shot and missed 18 free throws in the fourth quarter, and a lot of people attributed that to the daughter of Demar DeRozan screaming every single time one of the Raptors went up to the line to go shoot. And to me, that is the worst thing you can say to me right now as to why the Toronto Raptors would miss 18 free throws. Why? Because it just speaks to how undisciplined and unprepared this team was coming into this playoffs, coming into this game. And with their exit from the playoffs, it means the offseason starts off early for them. They can go into the gym and start practicing as much as they want now. But the sentiment around the Toronto Raptors is that something major is going to have to happen in order for the Toronto Raptors to get a different result this time around next year. And that is rightfully so. The Toronto Raptors, like I said, have been mediocre for a number of years now. Ever since 2019, they have just been by the wayside. They don't really get anything done. They get bounced out in the playoffs and have been frustrated since the 2020 season. So with that, what changes are going to have to be made in order for the Toronto Raptors to get different results next year? In my opinion, there are really two major things that's going to need to happen. The number one thing is Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has been the head coach for the Toronto Raptors for a number of years now, and he's done a pretty good job, right? He's even won a championship with them. He won a championship in 2019 to my heart's content. This is where this is from. And he's done a lot for the Toronto Raptors organization. But I think the time for Nick Nurse as the head coach of the Toronto Raptors has come and gone. And the reason being is the last time the Toronto Raptors had major success, the roster looked completely different. And I think Nick Nurse is equipped to coach a certain type of team, a team that has arrived, that is fully developed and ready to go, right? In 2019, the team that he was coaching had a bona fide superstar in Kawhi Leonard, a secondary option in Pascal Siakam, a vet like Kyle Lowry, shooters like Fred VanVleet, right? And defensemen like OG Anunoby. It was ready to go. But that's not the team that Nick Nurse finds himself coaching today. The team he finds himself coaching today is not fully developed, not fully polished, right? You have a guy like Scottie Barnes, who's not fully developed, but is a huge focal point of the offense. They've never been able to replace Kawhi Leonard. That's very hard to do, right? So they moved Pascal Siakam into his role as the number one guy. You don't have the veteran voice in the locker room or on the floor like Kyle Lowry used to have. It's a completely different team than he used to have, right? And I think it's frustrating for him to coach this team. I don't think he has the know-how to navigate a team like this, or he had to have guys that are older, that are more experienced, a little bit more talented, and were ready to win a championship. Then Nick Nurse is your guy. Nick Nurse can coach his butt off when he has those kind of conditions. But this is not the conditions that the Toronto Raptors find himself in. And I think it's very frustrating for him. His heart isn't in coaching the Toronto Raptors anymore. And he's frustrated. When he was asked about the future of his contract renewal, he said that it's been great coaching the Toronto Raptors, but he's considered his future and the possibility of coaching somewhere else.
First of all, I think when this season gets done, we'll evaluate everything, and even personally, like, I'm going to take a few weeks to see where I'm at, like you said, where's my head at, and just see how the relationship with the organization is and everything. It's been 10 years for me now.
And that's rightfully so. It would be very frustrating to coach a team like this. One coach I think could replace Nick Nurse, guy that I think has the tools, know-how to develop and to get the best out of their guys, would be Ime Udoka. And Ime Udoka, I think, might end up as the Toronto Raptors head coach next year. And Ime Udoka's resume speaks for itself. He was assistant coach to Greg Popovich, right? He was assistant coach in Brooklyn. And as you saw last year, he was able to get so much out of his guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and take them to the finals. Could you imagine if he could do that with Scottie Barnes? Could you imagine Ime Udoka teaching Scottie Barnes and developing him and teaching him how to play like Jaylen Brown? You would see a major difference for the Toronto Raptors.